Hi there! If you're interested to see how I get a score of over 4,000 points in Puget Bench for DaVinci Resolve benchmark, then I can show you what I did with my AMD 7950X. We will get later into the details so that you can see how the impact is of every point. Overall, I have to say, if I want to get this high score, I have to use a late firmware for the Asus board so that I can tweak my DDR-RAM. I have to use really fast DDR-RAM. It's a 6400 MHz RAM kit, 2 times 48 GB. I use the latest DaVinci Resolve, but of course also with version 18.6.0 I was getting scores of over 4,000 points. And DaVinci Resolve is installed on a fast nvme drive, generation 4. Generation 5 would be faster, but yeah, I don't own one of them. And of course I use a 4090 RTX NVIDIA graphic card. I also did some tweakings there. The Puget Bench files, I run them on a fast Gen 4 NVMe drive. You can also let it on the same drive where the DaVinci Resolve installation is, but usually I run it on a faster one. But I will also show you how the speed of the score will be if you use some other drives. I did some CPU tweakings in the BIOS, and I also use MSC Afterburner to make some things in the GPU. And for the highest score, I run DaVinci Resolve in the debayer mode and not in the decompression and debayer, as the standard overall score is a little bit higher. And then also I get some more points when I open my case, so I have a better airflow. That means if you have a better cooler, you can achieve a little bit a higher score. And I of course have a water cooler, so that means if you have not a water cooler and you are close to the 4,000 points, then most probably if you insert a water cooler, you will get these points. I have a dual boot, and with Windows 10 I always get higher points than on Windows 11, but the main thing there is because of the GPU effects. They will always be a little bit higher on Windows 10 with my system. I don't know why, but I will show you the impact also of the OS. I only have Windows 10 and Windows 11. Overall, I can tell you that if you right now have my hardware, let's say the 7950X, and you have a 4090 GPU, but you run everything on a SSD drive, and you just haven't done any tweakings in the BIOS, and you don't use any settings in the Afterburner, and you run it on Windows 11. Then you can see here how most probably the score could be with the RAM settings. I mean, just with the RAM settings for my RAM kit. I get an improvement of 3.6%. Then if I set it on Windows 10 in the debayer, it will be 0.5% faster. Then the GPU settings will bring me 1.89% more. The CPU settings 0.39%. Then if I open the case for a better airflow, I get also 1% faster. And then if I don't run the files, the Puget Bench files on a SSD, but I use a generation 4, then I will have about 5.88% more. And in my case, by using Windows 10 over Windows 11, I get also 3.66 points percent faster. That means instead of 3,450 points with all these tunings or settings I do, I will get a score of 4,072. Now we will get inside all these different points and the impact they have. To believe that I get scores of over 4,000, I will show you the video, the only one I recorded. It's not the fastest run, but here you can see it takes about 10 minutes and 30 seconds, just a whole run of the Puget Bench. I start it now. So yeah, just parallel, you can see how I get scores of over 4,000. And strangely, since the DaVinci Resolve version 18.6.1, when I run Puget Bench, it sometimes also shows what it does exactly. So I see what files it uses, and yeah, you will see it. Before the version 18.6.1, I could never see what it does in the background, and so I think something changed in DaVinci Resolve since this version. Let's go over to the RAM. Here you can see the impact of different RAM settings. I mean, when I bought my new RAM, the 6400 megahertz, I inserted it and I wanted to see a faster result than with my old RAM, with the 6000 megahertz RAM. But I was really surprised, as here you see the XMP RAM would not show in the BIOS XMP profile, but there I can choose a DOCP 1 or 2. And with both of them, I was getting scores when I run the DaVinci Resolve, the Puget Bench for DaVinci Resolve, of about 3643 points. And I knew that with the old RAM, with the 6000 megahertz RAM, I was getting 3700. So I was surprised that it is slower. And then I just said, okay, let's see what the score will be if I just say don't use any profile, and then it would make automatically 5200 megahertz, and I was getting even slower run in DaVinci Resolve. Then I inserted again my old RAM just to run it, and I was about 3700 points. And here I said again, okay, let's see what it is if I don't take the expo setting. And I was a little bit slower, 3653 points, but with 4800 megahertz. And then I said, oh, something must be wrong. After I again changed the BIOS settings to 6000 megahertz by setting the expo profile. And after again a run, I inserted again my new RAM. And I forgot to make a reset of the RAM settings. So it took over some of the scores, and I was really surprised, as from this point it was getting better scores. And so the 4 upper scores here are with the expo settings from my 6000 megahertz RAM stick, and then when I was running it with 6000 megahertz, but with the expo settings, the new stick would be faster than the old one. Not by much, but it was a little bit faster. After that, I tried to set it to 6400 megahertz with the same settings, and I was getting 3720 points. And then I said, okay, this is better than what I was getting before. And I tried to go as high as possible, and so finally I ended up to reach 3737 points, what is 3.6% faster than if I just insert my DDR RAM and I don't do any settings. Everything is auto in the BIOS. So it is very important to set at least the expo or the XMP profile to get faster scores. But because my XMP settings would just get 1% faster, and I was lucky to find some settings. You see the settings over here. Voltage changed from 1.35 to 1.4 volt. Setting the RAM speed to 6800. If I don't do anything, I would get 3607 overall score, and with this tweaking here, I'm getting 3737 points. So the RAM settings are very important, but if you don't have exactly my RAM stick, then you will have to make your tweaks at your own. And here you can just see my settings exactly for this kit I have here. And it is a kit with 2 times 48 gigabyte. So I run 96 gigabyte with this speed you saw over here. Well, at the end of the video I will show more information about the impact of the RAM. So let's see the impact of the change between decompression and debayer, or debayer. So you have to get into your DaVinci Resolve, and here in the decode options, use GPU for R3D, and here if you use debayer or decompression and debayer, here are the differences you see. So that means that for the standard overall score, you will get a benefit if you use debayer. For the extended overall score, it is better to use decompression and debayer. And also here you see that for 8K media itself, it is much better to use decompression and debayer, but for 4K media it is better to use only debayer. And here you see all the dependings from one and the other thing, but if you want a score of over 4000, it helps a little bit to use only decompression, as the overall score of everything together will be a little bit higher. I always use decompression and debayer just to run DaVinci Resolve, because I mostly work with 8K media, and there it shows that it helps much. Here you see that in 8K you will get 14.75% more by using decompression and debayer. But yeah, for the standard overall score, it's 0.5% faster the debayer. For the extended overall, it's 2.05% faster by using decompression and debayer. And for 4K media, it is better to use the debayer. And here I just made some of the scores which are changing. Yeah, where you see the difference. Okay, I have enabled some scores which stay exactly same. The fusion and the GPU effects are not affected so much by this change, the GPU setting for R3D. Let's go over to the GPU settings. Here you see I get my best scores when I set DaVinci Resolve when I set the GPU, the 4090, to core clock of 202 and to memory clock of 749. Plus I set the power limit and the temperature limit to the maximum, and I made a manual curve, as you see here, so that the cooler will run a little bit faster. Mainly I use this profile, but yet just to get a higher score, I was running the settings like you see it here. Now the impact is, it is almost linear. As you see here, by if you reduce the settings, let's say memory clock to -98, I will be 0.27% slower than if I don't change anything in After Effects. But then when I set it to 98, the core clock, and the memory clock 113, I will get 0.73% faster. By 145 and 210, I'm getting 1% faster, and with my best settings, I'm getting 1.89% faster. Then I tried also to set the memory clock to over 1000, but the Puget Bench would not run to the end. And here I have to say that in Windows 11, it takes higher tunings here, while in Windows 10, it wasn't accepting this setting. So in Windows 10 I had to run settings like this here, and I didn't tweak it so with so many runs to find out what is the best in Windows 10. I was happy that I'm getting points scores of over 4000. So let's go to the CPU settings. And here what I did in the BIOS is I just went to the Extreme Tweaker Precision Boost Overdrive Curve Optimizer, and I set all cores to -16. No, now I run it with 17, and some runs I also made with all cores at -18. And here it's depending on your GPU, and one will take maybe all cores -20, another one will only run with -14. Yeah, so you have to find out what your CPU is able to do. And of course you can do much more tweakings here, as you can also set every settings for each core separate, but I don't know exactly how to do that, and so I'm just using most of the time a minus of 17. Here you see the difference between if I set it to auto, so it will go with the higher voltage. It will be at 0 and no setting. and then you see that the standard overall score will be a little bit higher. Okay, here if I use all cores negative 18, it's getting me 0.39% for the standard overall, 0.56 points in the extended overall score, 1.18 points for the 4K media, and 1.46 point in the 8K media. Sorry, 8K media. This was a cut and paste error. Sorry for that. And then you see that the GPU effects and the Fusion score will not be affected so much by this setting of the CPU. Then let's see the difference between open case like this. If I remove the front part and I remove also the filter, this one here, run, it was over, and here I can show you it was at 4,000. It was over 4,000 points. And I also removed here the upper part so that the airflow from the air cooling 3 ventilators will be just without any stopping. It is faster, yeah. Here you see open case or closed case. It will bring for the standard overall score in decompression and debayer 1.85%, while in debayer mode this change will bring only about 1%. Yeah, here you see with debayer how the score is being affected, and here with decompression and debayer. So with decompression and debayer I am getting a little bit better score, especially in the 8K media of 1.67% faster. That means to me that if you have a much better cooler, yeah, the score would be much better. And here you see the difference between one run with decompression and debayer, with open and closed case, and one run with debayer with open and closed case. So yeah, you can take for you what is the best setting for you. But for the overall score, it was here that the in debayer with everything open, it brings the highest score of all. Then the drive speed. Here I did some tests, like if I use an external HDD, it was this here, the DuoBook. With this one, let's see here the standard overall score, 18.43% slower than the score I get when I use a SSD, internal SSD. Now, if I use a H8 HDD, an internal one, it is only 7% slower. And a Gen 3 NVMe drive, this here, the Crucial P3, with this one I was 3.86% faster than by using an SSD. And with Gen 4, the Renegade Fury, which is about 7,000 read and write speed, I was getting yeah, the fastest score. So for the overall, it brings me 5.66% faster score than if I run if I have the Puget Bench files on SSD. Depending on what you're interested in, it's here that 8K media will run 35% slower with external HDD. So never run your files on an external HDD, and not even of on an internal HDD, as this will also be 22% slower in the 8K media. Similar like the 4K media. And 4K media, the Gen 4 drive would bring also 32% faster score over an internal SSD. That means over an external HDD you will get about 67-68% faster in 4K and about 56% faster in 8K media. I would suggest go with the NVMe drive Gen 4, and I'm curious to find out once how much it will bring if I would use a Gen 5 NVMe drive. But yeah, the T700 would be, I think, the fastest right now. But I said, no, just for this test, I won't buy this. Now let's go over to see what the impact of Windows 10 will be over Windows 11. And here you can see that in my test, the standard overall score, if all the rest is good, you would benefit 3.66% in average by using Windows 10 over Windows 11, then 3.31% in the extended overall score, not so much in the 8K and the 4K score, but the biggest difference is the GPU effect. And so the GPU effect is about 14% faster in my machine with the Windows 10. For the score, for a high score, what will affect the standard overall score and the extended overall score on the Windows 10 machine. Here differences are phase refinement 38 in Windows 11 instead of 42, or 53 instead of 62 in the optical flow, 50% and changed better. And yeah, there are a lot of things but will be much better in the GPU effects with Windows 10, while all the rest is not so much affected. If you want the biggest score, then you have to go with Windows 10, just to be more safe to get the 4000 score. I also was able to get twice a score of over 4000 by running Windows 11, but here I will show you what I don't like in Windows 11 is the stability. Here you see that Windows 10 will always get me a really high score in Fusion and in the GPU effects, but in Windows 11 the Fusion scores, especially the Fusion 3D lower 3D and Fusion phone composite, they are like a lottery. If I let it 5 times run, once both these values will be fast on Windows 11, let's say 201 and 138. Once it will be the one score, it will be 177 and the other 107 and combinations of them. So that means it is a lottery in Windows 11, just these two scores, if I will get 107 or 138. And here if I will get 177 or 201. While when I run Windows 10, I'm always at the high score, like 139 in the phone composite and 201 in the Fusion 3D lower third score. And because of that, the whole score in Windows 11 is really volatile. And here you can see the standard overall score, if these two scores are low, will be around 3660. While if one of them will be high, I'm getting a score of about 3747. And if both of them are on the higher side, then I get 3923. But because the GPU effects are always much lower than on Windows 10, the overall score of Windows 10 with the similar settings will be in this case over 4000, while in Windows 11 I will get here 3923. But as I don't use so often GPU effects, I mostly work in Windows 11. If I want high scores on the Puget Bench for DaVinci Resolve, I'm just safe to run it with Windows 10 as these values here will be high. Now let's go to the overall. Overall, I have to say that the depending of that, like I showed you in the first at the beginning, will be here from a start point of 3450 if you have everything installed on a SSD, and if you use Windows 10 and if you don't have any settings, and so then you can get from 3450 to a score of over 4000. The extended overall score, instead of 2920 points, you could get around 3687. Also here you see, if you want to do the best 4K editing, then you have to use debayer. In the best 8K editing, you would have to use decompression and debayer. Faster NVMe drive is better. You can't go wrong with Windows 10 over Windows 11, but also you get similar scores in Windows 11 just for working with 4K or 8K. And now I told you at the beginning that I will show you also some more information about the RAM speed. I use AIDA 64 and I start the benchmark, and here this was the old RAM. You see 64 gigabytes, while here this is the new RAM, 96 gigabytes, with the frequency both of them at 6000 megahertz. And then you can see here the difference. I had here to use 5000 because this is the only run where I inserted all the 4 sticks, and then the fastest I can go is 5000 megahertz. Then you see I'm getting about 74 megabytes per second, while if I use the standard settings I'm getting 62 megabytes per second, and with the best setting with 2 sticks it is 77 megabytes, while the new RAM with the default setting it would get me 66 megabytes, and here you see the improvement what I get when I made my best settings, and then I'm getting 81 megabytes per second, and this is a really big increase over the 66 megabytes per second what you get when you just insert the RAM. It is a similar image here in the write speed and in the copy speed, so for me it makes absolutely sense to go with the fastest settings what I showed you at the beginning of this video. If you also have a 7950X, if you will do the same steps like I did, then I'm pretty sure you will also get a score of over 4000 points in Puget Bench for DaVinci Resolve. I learned a lot by making this video, and so hope to see you next time.